Hello, my name is Christina and this is What's Wrong with My Picture. Weekly reviews of work of artists who are in the beginning of their professional career. If you would like to see your work reviewed, please feel free to email me your images. The email address is down in the description of this video. And if you would like to support me and see more of these videos and other inspirational videos, please subscribe to my Patreon channel. All the links are also down below this video, and feel free to follow and feel free to submit your work. It's totally free. Okay, today's artist is Sarah Ann Wu. She's a portrait, fashion, and beauty photographer. And let's take a look at her selection of her work, which is mainly fine art, portraits, and beauty today. So let's take a look at this first image, which is quite interesting. I like the choice of model, definitely a very unique looking model. Interesting skin tone. I like the combination of the skin and the hair here. The colors are quite amazing. I also like the slight tone variation on the hair versus the skin versus the blush on the cheek. It's really nice how these nuances between different colors, and quite interesting makeup idea. So I think we see here a combination of quite strong makeup, strong lip makeup, and also styling the clothing elements around, kind of supporting that idea, which I really like. So let's zoom in and take a closer look at this, since it's a beauty shot, which I assume it is. Let's take a closer look and see what the photographer was trying to achieve here and if it was done successfully. So my first comment would probably be on the lighting. As a photographer, it's probably the first thing I notice when I look at images. And of course, then I look at styling and all the elements of the shot and composition. But lighting is very important, as you guys, I'm sure, know. In this case, I'm not entirely sure what the idea was here behind the light. It seems to be a combination of a cooler and a warmer light source. Maybe it was a window light and maybe some warmer reflectors or something coming from the below the model. Something like that. Just by looking at the catch lights, I see multiple light sources, but overall the light is very soft. And I think with this idea, I would like to see a slightly more focused, maybe not necessarily a hard light, but just to be a little bit more focused and maybe therefore more contrasty. So there will be a stronger contouring around the cheekbones, maybe more defined line on the chin. And overall, if you get a slightly harder light source, you will also get a more interesting reflection in the highlights. So anywhere where you have either really bright elements or moisture in the skin, for example, it will reflect the light. So the harder the light is, the more dewy the skin will look. So in this case, the skin looks very matte, and maybe that was an idea, but in looking at the lip makeup here, I would use as a beauty photographer, I would use a harder light to actually emphasize this graphic, very strong graphic element actually around the lips. So I would definitely use a slightly harder light source to get more of a crispness, to get more of that reflection, more of that moisture in the lips and around the skin as well. Like maybe more highlights on the cheekbones, more highlights on the bridge of the nose, maybe slightly more highlights on the forehead. So overall, it would just look a slightly sharper, slightly more contrasty crispier image and therefore more graphic. And I think the graphic aspect of it is very important because the makeup idea and the combination of a darker clothing elements and darker lips with lighter skin tone, I think, that type of light that I'm suggesting would only emphasize that. So overall, I would also suggest to pay more attention to how the makeup is applied. Or you can obviously fix that in post, is not a problem. Just to clean up these edges, make sure there's no blurry line, there's no little things that are out of place. I think it's really important when you're shooting beauty, when you're creating a beauty concept, all the attention is on how the makeup is applied, the skin itself, how moisturized it is, how smooth and clean it is. So for beauty, it's really, really important. And even though this model is very lucky to have a nice skin, but we still have some details to work on, like the eyelashes and some, contouring of the lips here. Maybe adding slightly more highlights over here. You can also do that in post. So yeah, but overall, nice concept, good idea. Let's take a look at the next. It's a different shoot, different idea, which also looks quite striking and bold. And I can see the style of this photographer. This, when you have sort of a signature approach to your subject, when you're not afraid of bold, when you're not afraid of, bright colors, shiny textures, it sets you apart from all the other photographers. Whatever approach you find, whether it's bold or very, very soft, but you need to go all the way with it to really stand out. That's my opinion. So I really like the idea here. I like the combination of the nails and the petals, all these two almost complementary colors. The only thing that I think you should be, again, more paying closer attention to details, because it's a beauty shot. Again, we need to see how clean, the makeup is applied, how clean the nails are applied. So all of these details should be cleaned up, should be all perfected. Another thing is, you see how the nail polish doesn't go all the way into the cuticle. Another thing is, for beauty, you should experiment with your aperture setting. So sometimes it doesn't work on a wide open aperture, because beauty is a lot of times it's about the skin and the texture. And when the skin blurs, the elements blur, go out of focus, it doesn't always look good. So, for example, I prefer shooting between 5.6 and f8. That gives me enough depth of field, sometimes even at f11 if it's especially a close-up, and I'm shooting with a longer lens. And so be careful with that. And I think this is the case where I would prefer to see all the nails almost equally sharp. And I would also love to see a more contrasty light in this one. Maybe not so. I mean, it's okay to have it soft, but maybe just a little bit more pop of light here, just to have more highlights on the fingers and on the petals. Just a little bit harder light. Okay, so let's take a look at the next. Quite interesting concept. I love the sort of clown-like makeup, whitened skin tone, buttons, very fun, like this string that the model is holding between her fingers, sort of like clown, circus, puppetry at the same time. So I can see the concept, I can see the thought behind this image, and I think concept is really, really important in anything that you do, whether it's beauty, fashion, or straight portraits. I think it's important that you have an idea or story behind it. And again, that's your strength as a photographer, to be able to, come up with this concept and develop them. But let's talk technical here. I think in this instance, the soft light really works. Like I said, the light is a big part of the concept. So in this instance, it really works because the skin tone is supposed to be soft and matte, kind of chalky. And chalk is like this really, like a drawing / painting sort of material, sort of medium. And therefore, I think that matte light that makes it look even more painterly, like it was drawn or painted on a paper with like pastels, for example. I think it really works with that concept. So very flat light, very even across the shot, really works. I like the active framing. I like the composition. I would maybe leave a little bit more room here, so it gives, slightly more space between the edge of the frame and the face of the model. So it feels like there's a lot of negative space here, which doesn't contribute so much into the story, I would say, into the movement. But the movement here seems very restricted. So I would give just a little bit more space. That's just my tip on the composition. I think the string really works here, so it's totally fine. I'm not sure how I feel about this, not because I'm, let's not show this armpits or something like that. It's not about that. It's just about the dark spot position against brighter area that kind of distracts from the main element. The main story is here, and all the contrast should be happening here, the contrast between the lips and the skin, and it's perfect. But this dark spot here might seem a little distracting. Maybe you could just tone it down in this case. But overall, I think it's very interesting. And again, my final thoughts would be on the post-production. As I always say with the beauty, post-production is really important. I think the makeup here is done very clean, but I would probably clean up the skin just a little bit. See, like there are still some darker spots in the makeup. Clean around the eyes, maybe clean up the outline of these threads here. Maybe liquefy it a little bit so it's more of a defined, more of a geometrical shape. Maybe add some more pop of color to the buttons. And maybe I would even transition this white into the neck just a little more. I see there's something in the ear and here. Maybe I would just go a little bit more with the makeup, with the white. You can do it in post. Just go down. And just overall smooth it up, clean it up just a little bit so it's not so textury. So yeah, I think overall really nice work. If you guys would like to see more work of Sarah, her website will be down below the description of this video. And subscribe to her Instagram as well. And if you would like to see more of this reviews, subscribe to my Instagram channel in IGTV and YouTube, and also my Patreon account. And thank you so much for watching.